Hello there, everyone. Welcome to the World of Momos podcast. And on today's episode of Reflections and Reactions, we have Sarah White with us, and we are going to talk to Sarah about basically her life, why she left Reform for Advance UK, and a bit about pink ladies and the dangers of illegal migrants and their hotels and HMOs and stuff like that in Essex. So, hi there. How are you?
I'm good. How are you, Momus?
Not bad, not bad. Thank you for asking. So yeah, let's get straight into it. Who is Sarah White? Let's
Oh,
go.
good question. Who is Sarah White? Well, I'm a mother of three children. Um, but and I've got my own business. I've got a doggy daycare. I'm here at the moment, so hence the attire. I'm not really dressed up because usually I'm out there just kicking the balls all day and running about with dogs. Um, but as a person, I'm incredibly driven, quite focused. I have a deep burning inside me that I want to do good for, not for me, for other people. Like, I've always been like that. And I know may sound like, to the audience, like, oh yeah, of course, like save the world. But I'm always putting myself in front of other people, and I always try to help everyone else wherever I can, sometimes to my own detriment. And I think that's just, some people are like that as people. You get good and you get bad, and I am a good person, and that's why, like, I then wanted to, when there was the elections for reform and there was no candidate in my area, I just was like, right, if there's no one else is going to do it, then I've got to, and I will be the person, even though I might not be the best, but at least there's someone for everyone to vote for. And I put myself forward for that, and then obviously then things have transpired, and I've left reform now and gone to advance because I no longer believed in reform. But we can talk about that a bit more in a moment. Um, but yeah, and then obviously started doing the protests in Epping and got myself arrested. And I'm quite a strong person, like not just physically but mentally. I'm incredibly strong, and I believe that when things are thrown at me to deal with, and I just think, well, I'd rather have to deal with these things than somebody else. So, because I know that I'm capable of dealing with whatever life throws at me.
So tell us a bit where you were born and about your local area as well.
So my mum and dad, they lived in Poplar at the time, and then where did they move to? It was like so I was basically, I always say I was born in Stepney. I was born in Bart's Hospital. Um, Lived in the East End for the first few years of my life, and then my mum said she didn't want me being brought up in the East End. My dad was originally a publican, and my mum was a market trader, so very working class. And then my dad was like, "Okay, well, where do you want to go?"
Hmm.
Because basically, me and my mum was my dad's life, and he said, "Where do you want to go?" And she said, "Devon." And so they moved to Bideford, bought a shop down there, opened up a shop, and they sold the latest fashions. And my mum would travel up once a month to buy the latest fashions from London and sell them in the shop. And it was we lived in a place called Bideford. And my mum come back one day. We hadn't been there too long, and she said, "I don't want to live here anymore." And he was like, "Okay, where do you want to go?" And we ended up going basically to Malden because my nan and granddad had moved out of the East End, and they went to Malden in Essex, and
I love Malvern.
lived there. And I went to school in Malden. Had a really, really, I couldn't have wished for a better childhood. My mum and dad, like, they didn't spoil me, but they spoilt me with love. And I feel very lucky and very humble to have had a really good mum and dad, and they was very loving. Um, and they always believed in making memories, so they didn't have the like. I remember our house when they first bought it. When they then got divorced when I was 15, it still had most of the same work still needed to be done, because they'd always decided to take me on holidays over like decorating a room and things like that. So, but it was a very nice house. It was a bungalow, and I loved that house. I had some really good memories. My dad would cook Christmas dinner for all my mum's family. My mum was one of nine, so they'd have all of the women would come down, and they was only supposed to stay like Christmas dinner, and some of them would end up staying for 2 weeks. And I just remember them all sitting around the table at Christmas Day and Boxing Day, and my dad would just do all the cooking. So even though I'm an only child, I always was brought up believing that I had 19 brothers and sisters because I was so close to all of my cousins. Um, so I'm not your typical only child. I'm not like that spoiled only child where they have a little bit where they have some issues where they can't share anything. I'm incredibly generous as a person as well. Um, and yeah, and then like I say, my mum and dad got divorced when I was 15, and then I moved back to London, and I moved to Canning Town, and my dad stayed in Malden. My mum um, moved in with one of her sisters, and I moved in with my aunt and my cousin in Canning Town, and lived there until I was about 18. And then at 18, 19, moved to Woodford, and then travelled about a little bit, various different areas within, say, Woodford, etc. And then I ended up settling in Chigwell, and I've been there for the last 14 years. And that's basically where my children have spent predominantly most of their childhood. Yeah, and it's just, I've always worked for myself. So I've got a doggy daycare now. And then I had a flourished business because I had my nan living with me for 5 years before she passed away. So I cared for her for that time, which I feel so privileged to have spent that time with my nan. My nan really meant a lot to me. So I was glad to have them 5 years with her. And my children, I think it was good for them as well, because to have an elderly person in your house constantly, and they had to help out and look after her, I think it's good for children to have an elder around them to, tell them about their lives, how they, like, the struggles they went through when they was kids. And also it shows them, like, they learn respect as well. I think it's very important for children to have respect for their elders. So yeah, and then now I'm here, obviously got arrested after doing the unfurling of the flag, and my life's gone a little bit crazy. I feel like I haven't slept in months. I'm like, I was on the Dan Wootton show a little while ago, and I was like, please shut up, like, to myself, because you're not making any sense. My whole vocabulary had gone out of my brain, and I was like, oh no, you sound like a real idiot. What are you saying? Like, but words were coming out, and I didn't even know what I was going on about. And I was like, right, shut up now. Um, so yeah, I really need to find a good balance of being on my phone, answering all the messages that I get on a daily basis, and trying to work and trying to run the house and look after the kids and do everything, because I am a single parent. Um, haven't been with my kid's dad since my youngest was 2. So I've done all of that on my own, and there's millions of women that do it on their own.
Mhm.
So I'm not looking for any recognition for that, because at the end of the day, get on with it. You had kids, get on with it. And I've always, for my kids, I've always got on with their dad, and I think it's very important to try and have a good relationship, so that your kids know that you can be apart, but you can still respect one another. And
Mm.
I think that's incredibly important. And then they also know as well. There's not a line that they can't cross a certain line. And my children have respect, and they know that I'm also quite strict. My son got a lifetime ban from his PlayStation, and I kept that up for a whole year. And then at the end of the year, everyone was like, "Come on, like, you've left his PlayStation and his chargers, like the controllers, but you've taken all the wires. Like, that's just torture. Like, what are you?" And I went, "No, because they have to have boundaries. They have to know respect. And really, he hadn't really done anything that bad, but I always think if you set a punishment, you should follow through with it." And then at the end of the year, I was like, right, I know it was a lifetime, but I'm willing to lift that ban. And yeah, I've, luckily enough, touch wood, they're good kids.
Yeah, that's really good to know, because I think so, like family is a lot more important, right? Like all of these things that we are doing, we need to have a balance, because
Mm.
if we don't have that balance, we are in danger of becoming obsessive in a way which is harmful for us, and we are just becoming radicals, and in a way, right? So
Yeah,
we have to keep focus, and we have to focus on the family and realize this is why we're doing these things, so that it keeps us honest as well in that way, and also shows us what's important. So whatever we say, we are understanding of the people as well, what should be important for them as well. So tell me about your first, like, why you got into reform. You've touched upon that anyway, so you can skip that if you want, but why you left reform and why you joined advance you can also mention in the middle if you want about your speech at Tommy Robinson's rally as well.
so basically, so yeah, like when I spoke about, like obviously said about why I got into reform. um and then basically the reason for me wanting to leave reform, it was a process. Basically, the first time I put a post up about Tommy Robinson as me being a candidate for reform, because I'd posted Tommy Robinson previously, but once I become a candidate, I got told, take the post down about Tommy Robinson or you will be dropped. And I was like, well, hold on a minute, what's
Mm.
why? And there was no, like, no one would say, oh, because Nigel doesn't like. Sorry, let
Mm.
me shut the dogs up because it's one.
Sorry.
Sorry, they don't listen to my mum. Just kind of chucks the ball and they just bark at her. Um, um, yeah, so I left Reform because basically it was
What do you say, like, before we go on to leaving Reform? Would you say, like, the reason why you joined Reform in the first place was because of the reasons why Reform at the end, like, you had to leave Reform because of those same reasons? You joined them because the Tories and Labour were acting how Reform is acting now,
yeah,
curtailing free speech and not really listening to the working class. So it was sort of like a protest thing, or we didn't have anything else. So you latched on to Reform because for that reason, but then they turn out to betray in the same way.
yeah. You know what it was? It was that, yeah, like I joined Reform because I believed that they wanted freedom of speech. And I also believed that there was a lot of people going in that was grassroots, that everybody had this one goal, that it really was, we want what's best for the country. And they was people that were working class, or people that just knew what the average person wanted, because the cogs of this society that keep this country going, you need to keep them people happy. And they're the ones who know the real issues that are going on in every single community up and down this country. And our issues in Essex are completely different to those in Leeds, and completely different to those in Devon. We don't share the same problems. We may have similar problems, but we all have different issues. um, but I really did believe that everyone that was joining Reform and that was going to be candidates and councillors and MPs, I really believed that they were fit to run this country because they knew what everybody wanted. And I believed that people like myself, got a deep sense of this passion to do what's right for everyone in this country and have it be a safe, fair, and secure future for our children. And then I just slowly started to see that it started to fall apart, and it was, right, well, this one's jumping over from conservative and that one's jumping over from conservative, and, well, hold on a minute, they're all jumping over, and which is fine. But then when I went to the conference and I sat in the for 5 minutes of Nigel's speech, and I got up and walked out, because the one statement he said was, this is all great, but now we want to get in people that have spent their lives in politics. Well, I'm sorry. The people that have spent their lives in politics are the people that are already in government, and they're the people that have fundamentally fucked our country up, basically. And I don't agree with bringing people over. So what you're doing is you're bringing your friends over to carry on lining their
Mm.
pockets, and it's so corrupt. I want to live in a place where if I don't, I'm happy to go and do a job within Parliament, and I'm not looking for backhanders. I'm looking for what's right for my children's futures. So, but I just feel too many people take positions to benefit themselves and not really good of the country. And I think that it should be people that are patriotic should be running this country, who really ultimately care. And yeah, fair enough, you can get paid for it, but you shouldn't, but there should be policies in place where these people can't have, it's a conflict of interest. You only have to look at, people and what they've got their fingers in every single pie. So you only look at Tony Blair's son is now the one who's going to be giving out the digital ID. You know,
Mm,
that's just one thing. It just shows how corrupt it all is. So yeah, so I started to see, hold on a minute, these aren't who I initially thought they was. And I'm not the only one. When I was at that conference, all I done all day was speak to people who are all annoyed with reform, and they've all said they're either going to get in as candidates and jump over to advance once they get voted in, or they're looking to just leave anyway and join advance. Um,
mm,
and I was fortunate enough to have already been put in touch with Ben, and then I met Ben, and I did say before actually Tommy's speech, I had already said that I wanted to join advance, but I wanted to make it at the right time. I wanted to
mm,
make sure that, everything that was going on with my court case and with the pink ladies and the protests in Epping, it all kind of had to be at the right point. I didn't want to, I did suggest potentially doing it at Tommy's, or I didn't suggest. Tommy said, how about you do it at this when you've done your speech, come out, and then you could maybe at that point we'll bring Ben on, and then you can meet and go, I've now joined advance. And but this seemed to be the right time, to be honest. I'm glad I waited till when I did, because it just give me time to kind of settle down. People know more who I am, and I think that's better for advance, because then people are looking and going, well, hold on a minute. We've been following this girl for a while. She seems like she kind of knows what she's talking about. She's passionate. She's um, patriotic. She's everything that we want, and she's sincere. So, I've had a lot of people go, I've followed you for a long time now, which it hasn't been that long. It's been months. We've been following you, and we believe in you, and we believe that wherever you've gone to, we're going to follow. So a lot of people have followed because of they've seen my actions over the last few months.
mm.
So if that can help advance in any way, I hope it does, and I feel like I've done something right.
When after you gave the speech at the 13th of September rally, which organized by Tommy Robinson, the Unite the Kingdom rally,
Mm.
did you hear anything from Reform's regional directors or anything of that sort, or did you get reprimanded in any way,
So
or did they
basically,
just ignore it?
basically, from the day I got arrested, I never
Mm,
heard one thing from Reform. I
mm,
and it's not like they didn't have my number, because they had spoken to me plenty of times before.
mm.
And so from the day I got arrested, not one phone call from them, not one bit of support. Um, Other political parties got in touch with me just to check that I was okay. Um, and
Which were the other political parties? Did Tory get in touch?
no, Tories didn't get in
No.
touch. Um,
Mm,
but yeah, so I felt like, well, they didn't support me, and plus I'd been told on numerous occasions, if you post Tommy Robinson, you will be dropped. Well, then I stood on Tommy Robinson's stage, so I
mm.
practically signed my death warrant, and I was
Yeah,
asked,
there was an FU to them anyways. So
yeah, they don't like
yeah,
him, and
yeah,
God knows what their problem is. But at the end of the day, I feel like they don't like anybody who steals the limelight. And I think that they
yeah.
see that Tommy steals the limelight from them. And they're fools to not embrace him, because at the end of the day, he brings a massive following. And that following now will join Advance. And rightly so, because Advance is the actual true party. I've met Nigel and I've met Ben. And meeting both of them, I can tell that Ben is sincere and he's a true patriot. And I've said this on every single time that I've been asked this the same question. So I do feel like I'm repeating myself a little bit, but Ben is sincere and he is patriotic and he is a genuine man. I never felt that when I met Nigel. And, I don't want to sit here and slag anyone off, but at the end of the day, I've got to follow my beliefs and my morals and I've got to guide myself. I wouldn't want to pressure or persuade anyone else to follow me, but I have to stay true to what I believe in. And I believe that advance is the way forward.
Yeah. So, I mean, let's talk a bit about now the Pink Ladies. So, just tell us before you involve, before you telling us about your involvement or anything with them. Tell us who they are and what it is, and what is the movement about.
So, Pink Lady movement is basically you can see they've set up, they've sprung up all over the country, and they can basically women in each area can just say we're Pink Ladies and set their group up, and that's it really, and they can go out protecting their local area and standing up for what's right. And in Epping, the Pink Ladies are obviously pretty well known and seen at the Bell Hotel. And um, basically, what we stand for is protecting women and children and believe it's a fundamental right to feel safe and secure within your community. And it's not just women and children, because we do know that, there's we want to protect the elderly. Like, everybody needs protecting. It's mainly for everyone to feel safe within the community. But we campaign really to stop young women and children getting sexually assaulted in their community. And that's got nothing to do with race, colour, culture, or anything. So, when Tower Hamlets had us labelled as deemed as a far right racist movement, find it incredibly insulting. But then when you look at Tower Hamlets on a whole, and especially in Whitechapel, and I think the population there is 90% Muslim, you can understand why they're wanting to silence a group of women who are rightly so speaking out. And ultimately, we do know that the grooming gangs um, do prey on innocent young girls. And it has been, we know that there's the figures that show that it is predominantly Pakistani men who groom young white women. However, I believe that there's a massive cover up in their own communities of the young girls and the women that are being sexually assaulted within their own communities, because we know that the shame and the embarrassment that would be brought on the family. So it's hushed, hushed. The difference is within our community, women are now feeling empowered to speak out, and it's not seen as something that should be held against them because they are the victims. So it's about us campaigning for everyone, and I know that we know that it does go on in their own community, but it's not spoken about. So it's about protecting all women and children, and it's got to stop. Um, we should evolved, and we had evolved as
Yeah.
a country, and we just seem to be going backwards. But I find that the problem is these people from a white middle class background whose children, who they've probably been brought up once their parents was hippies in the 70s, and they never disciplined their kids, and their kids have gone to university and they've been
Mhm.
indoctrinated, and they feel that they're doing what's right, but in actual fact they're causing a massive divide within our country. Because when I was at Whitechapel the other week, I was talking to a load of the guys there who's local to the area, Muslim guys, and they were saying we ain't got a problem, we just want everyone to get on. They want what we want, but you've got the far left stand up to racism group who turn up, who are all white. I don't see a multicultural
Mm.
background, and they're protesting and calling us racists, but yet there's no one standing with them that's from another culture or another background. So they haven't got the brains they were born with, and I feel that they're all suffering with a mental illness.
So, do Pink Ladies have any sort of like leadership or any sort of organization or something like that, or is it like it's just women who got together? to protest about these things, and it's just like a group of people, anyone can,
You know what? Anyone can kind of go can join the Pink Ladies. It's a movement led by women, supported by men. I like
Mm,
to say that because I believe that without men, women can't exist, and without women, men can't exist. And at the end of the day, we're all mothers, daughters, sisters,
mm,
wives.
mm,
So we should empower men as well, because I think that men have been dumbed down a lot in our society over the probably the last 10 years at least, where women have rised up and men have been put down, and they kind of lost their place within society. And men like to protect and provide for their wives and for their children, and it's seen as if, like, you're not allowed to do that anymore, you're not allowed to be a real man. And you got these women that feel that they're the man and the woman in the relationship, and they dictate to their husbands. I feel that we all play a role within society. Um, and I just think that, so with the Pink Ladies, when it comes to being there like a hierarchy or anything like that, myself and Ola have become quite prominent in the Pink Ladies, and we have decided, we've took it upon ourselves to help other areas. So there's a woman in Braintree, she's tried to get a group together. It's proven a little bit difficult down there. So what we've said is, we're going to turn up with loads of women on the 22nd of November. We're going to get coaches to ferry in women from all over the place, and then hopefully Braintree will then be swarmed with Pink Ladies, and then it will encourage women in that local area to come out, stand together, and then once we leave, hopefully they'll have their own network going on, and then it will make their area, they will feel encouraged and empowered to come out and stand together because they've felt secure on that one day. And then moving forward, it'll be better for them. And then we're going to go to Liverpool, and then we're going to do a nationwide protest on the 14th of February next year. And then going on from that, we might go to Brighton, we might go to Devon, we might go to Glasgow, we might even go to Ireland, and it will be going and standing alongside the women in these areas. Some of these women have got in touch with us and said, there isn't a Pink Lady group in our area. Can you kind of give us the blueprint how to set it up? And we've been liaising with them women. We had a Zoom call with them last night and basically saying to them what they need to do. I went and met some women in Romford last week, and the woman there had set up a WhatsApp group. And I said, look, get everyone's numbers, put them into the WhatsApp, meet, say, once a month in Romford, even get a market stall, because in Romford they've got a market. It makes sense to utilise each area. And I said, and then you can spread the word and you can collect data. So the idea is every area collects their own data of number of sexual assaults, number of stabbings, number of burglaries. And then we will keep that data, put a portfolio together, and then hopefully then we can go to Parliament with the actual statistics and say, here's the problem. This is what you're trying to hide. Why are you trying to hide it? There is a problem in every area. And hopefully, when women rise together and stand together, it empowers the rest of the women across this country to come out and actually stand up for future generations. And then hopefully the men, what we've seen is the men then feel, hang on a minute, our wives are out, our children are out, our mums are out, we need to stand side by side with these.
mm.
And you've suddenly all of a sudden got a massive movement on your hands. And I think now more than ever we're seeing, look how many protests there are now, look how many
Yeah.
groups there are that are all, they're all fundamentally wanting one thing, want to live in a country that's safe, fair and secure. And
Mm.
we all want that. I think that that's a God-given right. We should feel secure in our country and safe.
Yeah. Now let's come to that, your arrest, because yeah, that's what I wanted to talk to you about.
Mm.
Tell me, first, like, what happened, what made you do what you did,
Mm.
and the following on from that, like, how did the police deal with you, and then the court case and so on,
Yeah.
the whole deal.
So on the evening that I got arrested, I had just done a speech outside the Bell Hotel, and I was calling for everybody to stop paying their TV license. And potentially saying, cancel your council tax as well. And but that evening before we marched, I'd mentioned to a couple of people in the group, I don't know if it's a good idea that we march. I know that they want to arrest. That you could tell something in the air that night had changed. There was a lot of mainstream media there, and it was always funny. Whenever mainstream media were there, that was when the arrests were going to happen. And it was for we know what it's for. It's for the mainstream media to get their images for the following day's front page. So at the end of my speech, I said, right, we are going to march because the thing is, everybody wanted to march. So we decided, all right, we'll get everyone to march, but we'll be on, like, we'll keep a check of everybody. So I said, when we march, can we please be silent? Can we stay on the left hand side so the traffic on the opposite side can pass us? Please bear in mind of everyone, and let's keep this peaceful, because you can already preempt what was going to go on. And then as we was walking along, and it's quite a long walk, what I noticed was the police that was doing the like the perimeter or the line between the protesters and the road. They was grabbing the back of certain guys' arms here, but as they're grabbing them, they're pinching them and pushing them and going, "Oh, move over." Well, we know what they're doing. It's tactics to, get them rolled up. I'm grabbing you, I'm hurting you, you're going to move. And they're wanting them to retaliate. And I was constantly jumping in between and going, whoa, 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 what are you doing? And saying to the police, don't do that. You know what you're doing. I've witnessed what you're doing. Stop it. Because just because you're a police officer does not mean you're above the law. What you're doing is inciting
Mm.
violence. So I was calling them out on it. And I was saying to the guys, please don't bite. This is what they want. They want to arrest you. Let's not give them what they want. So I was constantly, and then obviously got down to the council offices, walked up the stairs as one of us always does, got the flag. And on this week, I didn't go up with a flagpole. Like, I just, because usually we'd prop it up and it would blow out and it would stay in place. And I had the flag and I was like, all right, I'll just put it over the top of the stairs. So put it over the top of the stairs. And then I see the officer walk up and I thought, I'm getting arrested here. And everyone was cheering and he come up and he went, and they obviously knew as well, because why is he coming up the stairs? And he said, take the flag down or you're being arrested. I said, no, I'm not taking the flag down. Take it down or you're being arrested. I said, I'm not doing anything wrong. I'm not breaking any laws. I'm not committing a crime. I'm flying the flag. And because I've had people say to me, yeah, but you know what? You should have just took the flag down. And I said, yeah, but you just because a police officer tells you to do something doesn't mean that it's right. And
Yeah.
they don't tell all the people that are flying their Palestinian flags, climbing up all over
Mm.
our statues and flying their flags. They don't tell them to take them down. So, and I stood my ground. And then I see him make the signal. That's it. They all come up the stairs, roughed me up. I was covered in bruises, arrested me, put me into the back of the van. When they put me into the back of the van, a superior officer leant through and said, you are to drive her down the road and de-arrest her. So I was
Hmm.
like, oh, right, okay. Got down the road, pulled into a petrol garage. Now, bearing in mind, we're in the middle of nowhere as well. So what was they going to just dump me there? Like, so got there. They've undone the back of the van, took my cuffs off, give me a bottle of water, talking to me. And the guy went to me, I've got to say, you're probably the nicest person we've ever had in the back of this van. I was like, I'm actually a nice person. And
But
he,
they roughed you up and like and did all of that. And what really annoys me is this word that they have started using of de-arrest,
I know.
right?
What is DRS?
Because
Like,
so if you arrest and then you release, then that means that you are accepting that you have arrested, and then you can be tried in court for it if your arrest was unlawful.
yeah,
But they de-arrest, this word that they're trying to introduce, is sort of like, oh, it as if it never happened, so
yeah,
you can't really blame us for it, right? It's
yeah,
not arrest and release, it's arrest and de-arrest. It's like, no, 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 you have arrested me,
yeah.
right?
I
And
know.
that arrest, and if you're saying like, oh, just drive her down the road and de-arrest her, that basically release her, that means you're admitting you arrested her,
Yeah,
arrested you wrongly.
yeah. No, definitely. And so sitting there, about 10 minutes have gone past, and then with that, he went, "I'm really sorry. we're not allowed to leave you here. You're going to Grays." And I was like, "What? Why am I going to Grays anyway? Like that's further
Yeah.
away than where you
In
should be
Borough.
taking me."
Yeah.
And and that again, it's them tactics, like, "Oh, we're going to take you as far away as possible to inconvenience you and your
Mm.
family." And I went, "Okay, fair enough." And like I say, the guys in that van, good as gold. Got to the police station, a little bit hostile when I was first getting booked in from the desk sergeant. I think once he realised I was actually a decent person and not like the other people that they was checking in, who was drunk and disorderly and calling them all the names under the sun and being abusive. And I was actually very respectful. "Yes sir, no sir, okay, yes," giving them all the answers they wanted. And then I was in there for 24 hours. So they kept me the maximum amount of time. But when I got interviewed, which wasn't until the next day, they went into the interview. They said, "You've refused a solicitor." I said, "Yeah, I don't need a duty solicitor. I'm quite capable of getting myself off this myself."
Mm.
And he said, I said, "So you're actually charging me?" He said, "Yeah, you're charged under Section 11 and Section 12." So I said, "Well, can you let me know what they are? Because it's all right giving sections. What have I done under that section to warrant being arrested?" And he said, "You broke the route of a procession." Why? How did I break the route of a procession then? I know the route of the procession. I'm heavily organised in the protests. I know where they go from and to. And he said, "Well, the police commissioner released a statement yesterday stating the route of the procession." So I said, "Well, for the benefit of the tape, could you read that out, please?" So he read out the statement that had been released the day before on Facebook by the police commissioner. And the moment he said what he said, which was, "The route of the procession is to take place from the Bell Hotel to the Civic Centre," I thought, cool. You've just basically said what I've done, and I've not done anything wrong. So I said, "And what's the civic centre?" He went, "I don't
Mm.
know." I said, "The council offices. The stairs I was standing on, when the flag blows up, it says civic centre underneath the flag." So
Mm.
at that point, I was like, right, surely, hello, somebody's going to have some common sense here. And he looked at me like, "Oh, God. Well, she's basically, we ain't got a leg to stand on. She's done nothing wrong." So he went, "Well, you're an organizer of a protest." I went, "No, I'm not." I said, I'm involved in the protest. People look to me for guidance. I speak to them. I'm good at speaking to people. I'm good at speaking to the police. I'm good at calming the crowd down. I'm not an organizer of a protest. There's a difference." And so anyway, went, "Right, interview terminated, back to your cell." So as we got out, I said, "I reckon common sense is just about to kick in, and I reckon I'm going to be released anytime, like sometime soon." And he went, "Yeah, anyway, like get off your go," basically. Went back to the cell. 5 hours later, come back, open the slot. "Right, we've got bail conditions for you." I'm like, "All right, okay, what are they then?" And it was, "You're not allowed into Epping Forest. You're not allowed to, we're taking your phone, and you're not allowed to the Bell Hotel or the Phoenix Hotel." I never go to the Phoenix anyway. And I said, "Well, that's unrealistic because, firstly, I've not committed a crime. Secondly, I've not incited racial violence." I said, "And it's an unlawful arrest." I said, "I'm a single mother of three children, and majority of my customers are in Epping Forest." I said, "And I'm not giving you my phone. If you take my phone, that's up to you. I'm not giving you the pin for my phone. If you want to look at it now, I'll unlock it. You can look at it, but I need it for work." So he went, "I'll be back." 5 hours later, comes back, opens up the door. He goes, "Right, your time for you to go." So I thought, oh, sweet, they must have dropped everything. Get to the front desk. He went, "Right, you're being charged under Section 11 and Section 12 of the Public Order Act 1986. Do you have anything that you wish to say?" I said, "Yeah, I strongly disagree with everything you've said." And he went, "Right, okay." And he said, "You've got new bail conditions. You are not to go to the Bell Hotel," but they didn't give a boundary or perimeter. And he said, "You're not to go to the Phoenix Hotel." Fine. He said, um, and you're not allowed onto the location or into the civic centre, so the council offices. I said, fine. So I said, can we just, I signed it because I see that they didn't put a perimeter. So I know it's just the grounds of each of them locations. So I said, just to clarify, I know I've signed it, but there's no perimeter in place. So what does that mean? He went, well, the grounds and the location. And I thought, these people haven't like got the brains they were born with. What is going on with our police force that, you know, if they wanted me to stay away from something, why didn't they put a perimeter in place? I'm obviously not a danger or a threat if I'm allowed to stand on the very pavement that joins to the Bell Hotel. And so I said, so that means I'm allowed basically outside, but I'm just not allowed. He went, yeah, you're not allowed on the location, the actual premises of the building. I was like, okay, when do I ever go onto the grounds anyway? We always stand opposite. You're not really imposing anything on into my life. It's no hardship. And then yeah, they set court for me for the 15th of October. And then days before I was due to appear in court, lo and behold, they dropped all the charges. We knew they would do it. The punishment is in the process.
Hmm.
All they done really ultimately was try to deter me, one by doing a brutal arrest and an unlawful arrest and keep me for an excessive amount of time. I didn't mind being in the cell for 24 hours. I could do with going back because I am so sleep deprived now that I could quite
Hmm.
fancy having 24 hours in a cell to recoup on all my sleep. Do you know what I mean? And I just think that our police force is something to be ashamed of now, because if they're out arresting people like myself just to send a message to the rest of the women in this country saying, we done it to her, we're going to do it to you. Well, I would encourage every single woman now to go out and stand up for this country and for their children's future. Because if you don't do it now, there's going to be a time in the future when your grandchildren are going to look at you and say, what did you do to protect us? Because we're
Hmm.
going one way at the moment. And that one way doesn't look nice.
Yeah, I mean, the arrest clearly shows to me that obviously it's illegal. What the police are doing are illegal. What the police did
Mm,
during those protests, busing those people in, the counter protesters, busing them in and everything,
yep.
it shows to me not just that the police, they might be nice or whatever. I don't really care, right? Because if they're following orders, they're doing wrong. They
Mm,
might do it politely, following orders politely or not, but they're
mm,
still doing wrong because their oath is to protect the public, and they're
yeah.
not protecting the public against from their own superiors, because there is corruption within the chief police officers and their superiors, right? There are some activists over there. I know this filled with some trans activists stuff as well, who are making the same sort of lefty sort of, like, route that they take. Like, if you're pro trans, pro LGBTQ, then they will be like, pro immigration, pro this, pro everything that is the left stands for. And there is corruption from that side, which
Yeah.
is where the chief police officers are giving these unlawful orders to their police force to follow, to
Mm,
frustrate the process, because they know they are protected by the Labour Party, right? That they themselves, their jobs are protected. Nobody's really going to look into them unless, like, something drastic happens. Nobody's really going to look into them. They can apologize afterwards, but they can keep on doing these things to disrupt. And it's not just limited to the police. There's a spread into the police, to all the public institutions, to especially to the local government, local authorities. We all know that, right? They are against the public, and they're doing these things because they first of all, they think the public is too stupid to know
mm,
what's good for them. So this is the way that they have to teach them, right?
mm,
And then they have to silence some people who are misleading the public. This is what the media think as well. Some people like you and I, who are misinforming and misleading the public and causing hate and division, right? So they know this, they have this propaganda, they are the actual activist, right? And they are doing these things to us to frustrate the process. The law doesn't support them, but there's nobody left now to actually apply the law.
mm.
So what are you intending to do? Are you going to sue them, counter sue them, or something, or are you just letting it go and
No,
carrying on?
I'm not letting it go, because at the end of the day, if I don't speak up and if I don't press charges, then what happens is the police think that it's all right, we got away
Mm.
with it. We do what we
Yeah,
want. And they're a
yeah.
law unto their own. And it has got to stop, because they're not policing fairly. Basically, they're a force of dictators now. And you cannot say, well, I was following orders. I'm sorry, that doesn't wash with me. You just followed orders, what, to go up and brutally arrest a woman who's just flying the national flag with pride. And that was it. Like, what did they think? That I was going to stay up there for like 48 hours? And even if I did stay up there for 48 hours, it's a tax paid funded building. Like, it's irrelevant whether I stood there or not. You're allowed to stand on them stairs. It's not a no go zone. So I don't understand their logic. And it just proves that they just wanted to set an example. And it's,
Mm,
you're flying our national flag, you're a racist, we're going to show you to be a racist, we're going to show that we can beat you up and we can do what we want, and then everyone else is going to toe the line. Well, I'm not going to toe the line because I haven't done anything wrong. And you have to know the difference between right and wrong. I know the difference between right and wrong. If I was, I wouldn't do wrong in the first place. So, hence the reason I walked up there calmly. I didn't have to bash past any police officers because there was no police line. There wasn't stopping people from going up there. And if they had been, I wouldn't have gone up there. If they
mm,
said, look, tonight we just don't want anyone going up the stairs. Oh, okay, cool. But
mm,
what it did do, and this is where they're not that bright, their turn of events, like what they done, caused then the whole world to see what happened to me. When you've got the likes of Elon Musk, tweeting what's happened in Epping, in a little town called Epping, you know that you've done something right. And you know that then the message is being spread, because a lot of people said, you know what, I wasn't fully aware, but when I see what they've done to you, it's made me look into what's really going on. So
mm.
they've just they've made it worse for themselves, really, because they're waking people up a lot quicker. We see now that they just arrest people, but who do they arrest? They arrest the wrong people. They don't, like, they're not policing fairly. They're not arresting any of the people on the Palestinian marches who are openly calling for death to Jews. When is
Mm.
that acceptable in this country? That is unacceptable. The Jewish race, the Jewish population in this country is about 300,000 people. They haven't incited violence in this country. They are a peaceful bunch. A lot of my customers are Jewish. They've, I've grown up with Jewish people. They're not a problem. They're not a problem to this country, that's for sure. But there are people that are a problem, and they're let off scot free time and time again. And what that does is that just makes that side of people think that what they're doing they can get away with, and they can do what they want, and it's got to stop.
Yeah, and it also encourages all the other wrongans as well, like regardless of what race and color they are as well. Because once you can see your justice system being lenient, then you see all the other people being emboldened as well, and that's what we see throughout. Anyways,
Yeah.
so thank you for coming on, Sarah, and telling us your story. So, do you want to tell us anything else? What's next? What are you planning on doing? Are you
Oh,
going to stand for advance? Are you starting? Because we were talking before, and you were thinking about starting a YouTube channel. So I don't know if you're
yeah.
doing that or not. Because
So,
you're on. People can catch you on Paul Thorpe's live stream a lot as well.
yes.
Because he'll
So I
be
was on
there.
last night with Paul,
Oh,
and
really?
he
Yeah.
so
Go on.
very
Tell me.
kindly last night, he said, right, guys, oh, Sarah's setting up her own YouTube channel. She's got the platform, but she hasn't got, I had like, I don't know how I got 6 subscribers. Who was
Hmm.
trying to follow me? Because I haven't done anything yet, but I looked on and I was like, oh, I've got 6 subscribers. He said, right, she's got 6 subscribers. She needs 1,000. So by the end of this show tonight, I want her to have 1,000 subscribers. And lo and behold, we hit the 1,000. So I've now actually got to get my arse in gear and get on
Yeah.
with the lives, because that's what I want to do. I want to do lives more like what Paul does, but do them as a morning thing. So it'll be a
Hmm.
loose women style.
Like a morning show, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Get women on. It'd be really,
Hmm.
really important to
Yeah, that's really good. Yeah.
be a daytime thing, because a lot of
Hmm.
women, I think Paul's audience is very mixed and very
Hmm.
diverse, and but I reckon you've probably got, stop it. You've probably got a high percentage of men on there, whereas women with children who might not necessarily know the real issues that are going on, because their kids might be at primary school, so they haven't got
Hmm. Hmm.
the issues what then takes over when you get to secondary school, because they're collecting their children from primary school, taking them to a play centre, and then going home. I think when your kids go to secondary, I think the problems in the world become a lot bigger. So I'm thinking that potentially during the daytime, I'd have a lot of women who would view what I'm talking about, and maybe it might wake them up a little bit more. With regards to advance, obviously, I want to be involved in advance as much as possible. If ever they wanted me to stand, I would never want to stand as a counsellor. I feel Ben even said it to me himself. You're wasted as a counsellor.
Hmm.
You're, I'm more of an activist. But if they wanted me to become an MP, I'd happily stand as an MP, because I do believe that then you've got more power, you have a bigger voice, and you can really try and push things through in your local area. So I wouldn't mind doing that. But as it stands at the moment, I'm part of Advance. I'm going to be going up and down the country speaking at different conferences and events that they're doing. So yeah, I think it's watch this space, but I'm heavily supporting Advance. I talk about Advance all the time. If any women at the Pink Lady protest want to know about Advance, because they've started asking me now, because where I've done the whole big thing of leaving Reform and going to Advance, so it's got the conversations going. Um, so yeah, it's good. I'm happy to see where this is all going, and I'm looking forward to it all. With regards to the podcast and the lives, again, it will be, I'll heavily promote Advance to try and
Yeah.
get it in
Yeah.
motion, and really support them as much as possible.
Hmm.
Like they've been very supportive of me.
Yeah, no, it all sounds good, and thanks to Richard Thompson, and I will do some live stream as well on my podcast, or on on another platform or something. We'd love to
Amazing.
have you on as well, so that we can
Yeah,
get together and we can talk about the issues in Essex, because we have other really good candidates as well, which will
yeah,
be coming up, and other concerned people in Essex, and I think so people don't also understand sometimes how much diverse our issues are over here,
mm,
because geographically it's very challenging Essex as a county, because
yeah,
the problems in dengue are always in the dengue area are always like ignored by the rest of the county, like they don't know the problems over there are very different to the problems around Colchester and north over there, or south towards Basildon and Thurrock and those areas, or in the west towards Harlow, Epping, and those, like bordering Havering and stuff like that. So
yeah,
it's very interesting to get people together from different sides of the Essex, so people can also understand some
yeah,
parts of the Essex like have different issues, and we need to concentrate on that as well, because nationally nobody's really going to speak to us
mm,
unless we have candidates who are from those areas and they
yeah,
understand the problems.
yeah. That's right.
Yeah.
You have to. I believe you have to live in your area to represent it. I don't feel
Hmm.
it wouldn't be fair for me to be put as an MP in Manchester,
Yeah.
because I don't know. I wouldn't know what any of their roads are called. I wouldn't
Hmm.
know what their local community centres are. I wouldn't know if they've got youth clubs. I wouldn't know the local youth workers. I wouldn't know the mayor. I wouldn't. It's not fair for somebody to start talking about an area when they don't know it. It's different if
Yeah.
you were, say, born and bred there and then you've moved out. You would have
Hmm.
a good idea of the
You
issues.
have some roots, you have some family and friends over there,
Yeah.
so you can connect. But this is completely like, but they're just putting people on, like Nigel Farage in Clacton. He has the foggiest of idea what Clacton is, right?
He hasn't got a
He
clue, and he
haven't
don't go
even.
there. He goes for a photo opportunity, have a quick pint, and fucks off.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly. He has no idea. He has no idea. So I mean, this is what I want to promote as well, like local people standing for local areas. Like you have to be from Essex to stand for Essex seats, because
Yeah.
we've been taking advantage of for too long. We've been taking granted for too long. So
Yes.
we need our voices heard. So really glad to have you on. Thank you for talking with us, and
No, no
hopefully we'll
worries. Thanks
catch
for
you
having me
soon.
on.
Your Twitter for people to follow. What's your
Yeah.
X
So
handle now? Because it was
yes,
reforms are now changed. Yeah,
it changed. So my X handle now is at Advance Sarah.
at Advanced Era, and I'll
Yeah.
put that in the description below as well.
And
And
on
I'll put the link for your YouTube channel below as well.
amazing. And in on Instagram it's
Oh, your Insta as
Advance
well.
Advance UK Sarah.
Advanced UK Sarah. I'll add you as well. I don't know if I've added you actually.
And then on so on the YouTube, oh my god, this YouTube channel, I don't know what I'm doing, but there's my thing there.
Yeah. So I'll put it on. Can't see it. Oh, at Sarah White 85.
Yeah,
I'll
at
put that in the description
85,
as
and it's
well.
capital S and a capital W. I don't know if
Hmm.
that makes any difference.
I think so. It will come up anyways if they put in Sarah White. So yeah,
Amazing.
thank you for coming on. I'll put everything in the description below, and I'll
Brilliant.
catch you guys next time.